It's Sitting Pretty, baby.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Sitting Pretty. It's your girl Lolo, and this week I took to my Instagram to figure out what to talk about on the channel today. One of the most popular topics that you wanted me to address was how I am able to live completely independent. I came up with the top 5 things that I felt were important to how I'm able to live independently. Now, of course, like I always do, I have to give the disclaimer that what works for me works for me based on my needs and my abilities. This isn't necessarily across the board, but if you are a person interested in living on your own and having that type of independence, I'm hoping that some of these tips are actually helpful for you if you are actually considering it. So, that is enough talking, enough preparation, honey. Let me get to my list. These are in no particular order of importance. This is just me going off the cuff. Number 1, working a full-time job. Now, the reason why working a full-time job is pertinent to living independently is because you need the money to pay the rent. Now, as a result of that, I am not qualified to receive SSI because I make too much money working a job than to receive SSI. But we all know that SSI is not enough money. But again, that's a whole other beast. But it is a job that's in the entertainment industry. It is behind the scenes, but I enjoy it. I really, really do love it, and it is a lot of fun. So the number 1 thing, all in all, whether it's a full-time job, a couple of part-time jobs, whatever it is, the number 1 thing to living independently is get your coin. So that way you can pay your rent and pay your bills. Number 2, have a caregiver. My caregiver is super duper helpful in assisting me with being able to live independently. There's a lot of things that my caregiver helps me with that I am completely unable to do solely on my own. You're going to need a caregiver regardless if you are going to live independently. The third thing that is very important to me in order to continue to live independently is choosing a neighborhood that allows me to be independent. And what I mean by that is that there's a grocery store nearby, there's some restaurants, a movie theater or something, a mall or something like that I can get to whether I'm only in my chair and I just ride down the street, or it only takes like 1 bus, and at the very most, is only like 20 minutes away on the bus, which technically is only like a 5-10 minute car drive if you do drive, but that's important for me. So you have to choose a neighborhood that allows you to be independent outside of your caregiver and has the things around you that you enjoy. And you also want to choose an area that is pretty central to everything that goes on in your city. Because if you're taking a Lyft or an Uber, you don't want it to cost an arm and a leg one way because you live so far out from everything else that's happening in the city. Number 4, you have to have accessible equipment inside your home. You can ask your building for what is called a reasonable accommodation. And basically what that is if it's something that their maintenance people can adjust or move around specific to your disability and your needs, they will be able to do it for free. So for example, in my previous apartment, it was like a pretty big, not necessarily like a big step, but the step was a little too high for my wheels to kind of jump in and out of the apartment. So they built a very small ramp to alleviate my chair from being like bumping into that step in order to get inside the apartment. Something like switching out a bathtub for a walk-in shower or vice versa. that's something that's usually not covered. They are willing to do it, but that would probably be something that would get charged because it's pretty much rearranging the whole unit. Talk to the property managers about what would be considered a reasonable accommodation based on your needs. Number 5, when I started working on moving to this place, I noticed that a lot of the places that I wanted to live at and be in were one of those places where you had to take an elevator to get to the apartments, which is mad annoying because for me, I always want to be able, if there's an emergency or some type of bullshit goes down, I can bounce out my door and be right in public view, right on the main street and be out. But a majority of apartments now are not that, unless it's an apartment that's like super old or whatever the case is. For the type of apartment that I wanted to live in, that's basically what it was. So if you're in the same boat as me, then what you have to ask is, does the building and the staff have a plan for people with disabilities to escape emergencies safely? Luckily, I was able to find a building that did have a plan in place, because when I went to other buildings and asked the same questions, they straight up told me, no, we don't have a plan. No, there's nothing in place for something like that. And it was like, okay, so clearly you guys have no intentions of having people with disabilities live in your building because you don't care whether or not they're safe if an emergency happens. So you have to ask that question as well. That is pretty much all of my top tips that helped me feel confident living independently in my new place, and things that I keep in mind since I've been living independently for like over 10 years now. If you are a person with a disability who also lives independent and you have more tips, make sure you leave a comment. If you have any more questions or thoughts about living independently that I was not able to address, make sure you leave a comment, and make sure you follow me on Instagram, because I will come back and ask all of y'all, what do you want me to talk about next? So I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And of course, until next time, it's Sitting Pretty, baby. Peace.